I'm Sabatsaki, and this is A Chemist Cooks. You know, chemistry is all about stuff. Combining, mixing, and separating it, heating and cooling it, changing its color, form, texture, volume, consistency, viscosity, look, smell, and feel. But mostly, chemistry is about turning raw materials into useful products, which we all need. Cooking is a lot like that, only you can eat the results, if they're any good. I'll be making a series of videos with recipes and techniques for some classic foods. Some simple, and some a little more complex, but all fun to do. I hope you enjoy them. Thank you so much for watching my video. Today, we're going to bake a sourdough bread. Sounds scary, but really, it's not scary at all. It's very straightforward, just needs a little bit of patience. So the basis of the whole thing is this. It's a sourdough starter. This is basically wild yeast from the air that lives on flour and water in your refrigerator and lasts forever. This is what will create our rise. And this is instead of commercial yeast. Gives the bread a special sour taste, which is like none other. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our sourdough jar and pour it directly into this plastic bowl, like so. Just empty it all out nicely. You can see how nice and lively this starter is. There we are. There are about 2 cups of starter in this jar. There we are. To that, we add a cup of flour and an equal amount of warm water. 30 seconds in the microwave should do it just fine. Just pour that right in and mix it up. Gonna mix it up nicely until all the flour is wetted out. And we get sort of a liquidy consistency, a little bit like pancake batter. Ooh, that smells nice. It has a beery, sort of a beery smell, which indicates that the yeasts are doing well. Okay, now that we've mixed this up, we're going to cover it up in some plastic wrap with a little hole punched on the top. And we'll put this away on our countertop for the whole night. That's about 8 hours. Tomorrow morning, we'll come and visit it again. You know, sourdough baking has a lot of jargon. And what we're doing here is something called proofing a sponge, if you can believe that. Basically, what this will do overnight is get those yeasts woken up from being in the fridge, and we'll get them starting to eat this flour that we've added and exuding and creating CO2 bubbles, which is what we need. By tomorrow morning, that activity will be strong enough for us to start making our sourdough dough. So, see you in the morning. So, here we are the next morning. Our wild yeast have been feasting on the starches in the flour, making lovely CO2 bubbles. So, our sponge is proofed. Our trusty old Kenwood mixer. This mixer is 40 years old. Still works like new. Amazing. Yay, Kenwood. So we need 2 cups, identical cups. One we'll use for the starter, the other one we'll use for flour. So we'll start by pouring 2 cups of the proofed sponge into our bowl. There's one. And there's 2. and another 1/4 cup. There it goes. Not very neat, but you get the idea. Very good, perfect. Ready to add our flour. We'll add 1 cup of strong flour. And get all Kenwood. Start mixing. The speed is about right. As you can see, starting to get a dough ball. And now we do something amazing. We're going to let it autolyze. In other words, we're going to let it sit for half an hour and let that yeast start working again. Oh, that looks nice. So it's been about half an hour and our mixture looks something like this. The whole idea here is to let that yeast feast. Give it a chance. Start up again. And now we'll add 1 tablespoon of coarse salt. Let it around for a while. And another cup of strong flour. We're now ready to add our 3rd cup of flour. And this cup is actually 2/3 white flour and about 1/3 of whole grain spelt flour. It's good for flavor. Slowly add that in. So I'll mix it down a little bit. Here's what it looks like. I'm going to add a little bit more of our sponge. There's 1 tablespoon. There's another tablespoon. There's a 3rd tablespoon. Okay, so we've been running another 10 minutes or so. That's almost 15 minutes in total. And we're ready. Take our dough out and do a little bit of hand kneading. This is what it looks like. And what we're going to do is flour our hands a little bit and take our dough off the hook. Like so. It's nice and stretchy already, as you can see. That's the key to sourdough bread, is nice stretchy dough. Well aerated. Comes nicely out of the bowl. And on a very lightly floured surface. So thank you to our trusty 40-year-old Kenwood. And now we'll do some hand kneading. So many techniques to doing this. I'm the slap and fold guy. That's the one I like. Dough is very flexible, non-sticky at all. You can let the mixer do the work for you, really, to get the dough into the right consistency before you reach this stage. You can do a little bit of hand kneading to develop that gluten in there. And just keep going. Just slap and fold, slap and fold. And probably maybe 10 minutes of this should do the job. The dough shouldn't be very sticky. You look at my hands. Definitely aerobic. All right. Okay, let's do our little window test and see how we're doing here. Not too badly. Getting a window, nice and thin. Good, getting there, getting there. A little bit more. You can do it one-handed. You can change hands. You can do it two-handed. You can also do a push and fold, push and fold, push and fold. That also works. There we go. A little bit more stretching. Look at that. Yeah. It's nice stretchy dough. There are a lot of methods in sourdough baking. Different ways to proof a sponge, to autolyze, different temperatures, different conditions, different times. But at the end of the day, you need to end up with a nice flexible dough ball that really only contains flour, water, and salt. Some people add a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of sugar to their dough mixture, and that works. That can develop different flavors, some more intense flavors, but really the basic sourdough bread is just 3 ingredients and a little bit of muscle. Okay, so now we feel that we've done a good job of kneading this dough. And what we'll do now, we'll take a floured plastic container in which we'll do our rising, and we will drop our dough ball right there in the middle, knock it down a little bit, like that. Looks nice. We'll cover it up and we'll come visit it again in half an hour. The important part of sourdough baking is, of course, maintaining your starter. So what we have here is the starter that we have left over from our current bake. We pour that right back into our trusty sourdough starter jar. Try not to drip all over the place. Add 1 cup of flour to that leftover sourdough mix, and that will be the basis of our continued immortal starter. We'll add 1 cup of warm water. Give it a good mix. Good. That's all good. So here we are. Here's our starter, ready to go back in the fridge. I've had this particular starter for several years. You put it in the fridge, feed it once a week, and it'll last forever. So it's been about half an hour, and we're ready for our first fold. Different theories about how important this stage is, but seems to work for me. Stretch out your flour, fold it over about 1/3. If you wet your hands a little bit, won't be any problem to do this. Same thing on the other side. Turn it 90 degrees. Wet your hands again. Let gravity do the work. Stretch. Fold 1/3 over. Stretch. There you go. Fold 1/3 over. Pat it down. Still plenty of flour in here, so I don't have to add any more. It's not sticking. And we'll come visit it again in 1 hour. Nice. So it's been an hour, ready for our next stretch and fold. Wet our hands a little bit, and off we go. Same story. Let the dough stretch under its own weight, like so. Fold it over. direction. Let it stretch. Fold it over, 1/3. Stretch. And fold it over. You can see that the dough is a little bit more fluffy now. We need to get really soft. We'll come back and visit it in 1 more hour. One thing you can do, if it's a really cold day, is set your oven to about 25 or 30 degrees and just put your plastic container with your sourdough right in your oven. Nothing will happen to it. And this is instead of what the big boys call a proofing cabinet, and it'll do the same job. Okay, so it's been another hour, and we're ready for our next stretch and fold. Wet our hands a little bit. As you can see, we've got a lot of volume in our dough, very stretchy. Stretch it out, do our fold, like so. Doesn't have to be very neat. Stretch it out a little bit more, like so. Fold it over. That's good. Okay, so we'll do this one more time for a total of 3.5 hours. We'll come back in another hour, and then we'll be able to shape our dough. 1 more hour. Well, look at that. Isn't that nice? So now we're ready to shape our loaf. Our dough has risen very nicely, and we need to knock it down and shape our loaf. I recommend that you get one of these. It's called a banneton or a proofing basket. Doesn't cost very much, and it'll save you a lot of work. And we'll put our dough in here and let it rise, and it'll have this very nice shape when it's done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put some flour on this liberally so the dough doesn't stick, shape our loaf, and plunk it in. So we're going to liberally dust the banneton with some semolina, like so, and some flour, like so. Get it on all sides, so it's ready for us. That's great. Okay, and now we're ready to shape our loaf. So, put a little bit of flour in our hands. Take out our nice fluffy dough onto our surface. We don't need much flour on the surface. And we'll knock all the air out of this. Knock all the air out. Like so. That's good. Very nice elastic dough. Very little sticking. We don't need much flour. Just put on just a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier. That's all we need. And off we go. Alright, so now we want to shape our loaf. And the way we do that is we flatten this thing out, like so, into a roughly rectangular shape. That's good. Like that. Stretch it out a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, good. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to fold these over like a couple of ears. Fold this over here. Flip it around. Do the same on the other side. Fold, fold, and roll. And now we're going to roll this whole thing like so. And we're going to try and get some tension on the surface of this thing, which is what we're doing here. That's good. Build up some tension. Make sure this seam is nice and closed. All right. That looks good. And this goes into our banneton with the seam side up, like so. Close the seam. That's looking good. So what I've done is I've put some flour on top of our loaf, and I floured the bottom part of this plastic wrap so it doesn't stick to the dough, and we're ready to wait for about 3 hours. Sourdough baking takes a long time. It's all about patience. So we'll be back. So here is our loaf. It's risen after about 3 hours. Take the cover off. And what we're going to do is two things. First, we're going to take a pound cake pan, about half filled with water, and that will go at the bottom of our oven. We're going to preheat our oven to 230 degrees centigrade, which is about 450 Fahrenheit. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put some flour and some semolina down on our baking sheet, and then turn the bread onto it. So here we go. Just spread a little bit of semolina. And just a little bit of flour. This is just to make sure that our bread doesn't stick to the pan. Some people will bake their breads in a Dutch oven, which is preheated, or heat up their ovens to 500 and 600 degrees centigrade and throw in boiling water. Don't do any of that stuff. All we do is we bake on a regular cookie sheet, and we put a pan of water in the oven, which we'll show you in a minute. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our banneton, and we're going to flip the bread onto our baking sheet. There it is. Okay, so here's our setup. We have an oven with our tin filled with water at the bottom. The oven is preheating to 230 degrees centigrade. We'll pop in our loaf after we score it. Okay, so now we're ready to score our loaf, which we'll do with a scalpel. One quick wipe, and then another one. Nice and deep, don't be afraid. Good deep cut. And I like to put a little bit more coarse salt on top, like so, and into the oven it goes. So our bread is in the oven, and we have set our oven for 35 minutes. In about 10 minutes, we'll lower the temperature to 180 degrees C. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. Let's have a quick look. See what we're looking like. Oh, we have a very nice oven spring there. You can see that. That looks great. And there you have it. Sourdough, the king of loaves. Looks very nice. It's a nice rise. We'll let it cool off, of course. And we'll cut in about, I don't know, as long as I can stand, and check the crumb. So all in all, that's 15 and a half hours, 7 and a half of them today. It takes a long time to make good sourdough. Okay, so now it's time to see what kind of crumb we have. So here's our loaf. A nice open crumb, nice crusty top. Wonderful. Well baked. You can see it springs right back. It's a good test. You just press it in. See if it springs back. Nice. So there you have it. Pretty amazing, eh? All you need is a little bit of sourdough, which is basically wild yeast, some flour, some water, a little salt, and there's the miracle. A loaf of sourdough bread, the king of loaves. Hope you enjoyed it.